What's up, guys? Jumping into this one tonight. Today was an interesting day. Actually drove to Atlanta to replace some shoes that I had bought. I've been working on my wardrobe game and bought some shoes. Turns out you cannot exchange them online, so the only way to do it was to go into store. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I had to travel to Atlanta. That was the closest store. So there was about 2.5 hours to get there, about 2 hours back. It wasn't terrible, but along the way, there was a lot of interesting things that happened. I'm gonna share those in just a minute. And so one thing that I do want to address is doing a lot of thinking on the way to the show, doing a lot of journaling recently, thinking about this channel and thinking about some of the other things that I've been working on. So I think there's gonna be a couple changes I make, probably barely noticeable, hopefully, but they are intended to be improvements. I don't really want to specify what those are, but I do want you to know that there are going to be a couple subtle changes, and I think it's going to work out. I feel very positive about it. I think they're only going to add to the videos and to the channel. So stay tuned for that. Ultimately, working into today and some of the story that happened. So one of the first things is heading into Atlanta, didn't expect to hit much traffic on a Saturday afternoon. I've heard Saturdays are the best. Unfortunately, did hit about 20 to 25 minutes of slowdown probably heading in, considering how long it took to get out. Not a major deal, but made it to the store the entire way into Atlanta, just thinking about the reason why I drove to this store to exchange the shoes is because I had gotten the shoes on sale. And in my head, this seemed like a really good deal that I got on these shoes. They're one of the nicest pairs of shoes that I've ever bought, which I don't think is saying a ton, but they weren't exactly inexpensive shoes. I've never really bought nice things, and I was thinking a lot about this because this reminds me of a couple weeks ago. I don't want to go on a big tangent, but I was parking at a nice restaurant for a business dinner and valeted the car without the understanding that you do not really pay for valet at restaurants. You tip the valet driver, the valet guy. Do they just call them valets? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I didn't know that. And that's one key point of the stories today is experience. That, you know, I kind of looked at myself just for a minute, like maybe I was an idiot, but really it's just ignorance. These are experiences that I chose not to have. And without that experience, you lack the knowledge and understanding. And so in that, I think there's an opportunity for growth. And I had been thinking that for a while anyways, but I do think that there's some opportunities and some experiences that I've neglected without really good reason. And I think I'm gonna be closing some of those gaps in the upcoming months. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But today at the shoe store, again, really nice shoe store. One of the nicest shoe stores I've ever been in. Wonderful man helped me out, and I was talking to him about the shoes, which is something that I definitely didn't do a couple years ago. I would never talk to anybody in a store and get help. That's also a part of the story today, is the change that I know that I've undergone, because I think that, you know, when you go into a store and somebody asks if they could help you, my answer was always most definitely no. And anymore, I'll go into a store and I'll ask questions because I don't know. And I really want to close my ignorance gap as much as possible and make sure I'm making the best purchase I can. And really, regardless if they're a salesman or not, they probably do know better than me. And at nicer stores, I've had really good experiences with people being honest. One of those nicer stores being REI, like buying my climbing shoes, buying a couple camping gear items. I really ask and get their opinion. They could be wrong too, but it does provide a level of comfort that eases that buyer's remorse that once you leave the store. So he helped me out with sizing, helped me out trying to find the right pair of shoes, and I got the exchange done. Took all of 15 minutes, so I had a 2.5 hour drive for 15 minutes. On the way in, what I was saying was, I was just calculating this cost difference of paying for gas to drive to Atlanta for 15-minute exchange versus the sale that I got on the shoes. And really, it's probably really close. And then if you factored in the ultimately 4.5 to 5 hours of drive time round trip, you know, I probably lost on today. And I didn't really think that through before I did it. I don't know if I'd want that back or not. I got to spend the trip listening to a lot of podcasts and doing a lot of thinking, which brought up some of the ideas in the video. The only other person I communicated with in Atlanta was a woman who I ran into. Well, ultimately she was walking down the street while I was in my car. I did not run into her with the car, just to be clear. But I entered a gridlock situation. And really what was happening is I was trying to get some tacos. I was trying to get some Mexican food. Love Mexican food. I figured if I was in Atlanta, I should eat something while I was there to just make a little bit more of the experience. Yet cops were blocking motorcycle policemen and troopers and sedans, and were blocking every parking lot and every entrance and every exit along this road that I was on. And I was starting to get like really curious, as like I didn't know if there was a sporting event or something going on. So I was working my way, weaving my way, trying to find a reasonable parking lot near this place that I was trying to eat. And then I end up getting just caught, like supremely caught in traffic. Because one of the things is all the parking lots were just incredibly outrageous. I guess I was in downtown Atlanta, or well, Bucktown to be specific. Never been there, but I know I didn't really want to pay those parking prices. So I was really weighing out my options until I got caught, just dead stop for probably about 5-10 minutes. I saw a group of people talking to the people in the cars in front of me, and I was getting curious, super curious. Eventually, I rolled down my windows, and this lady told the car behind me. I thought I had heard it, but she came up to me and she goes, "You know why you're stuck?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Well, because the president's in town. And he's staying here at this hotel, and it's gonna be a nightmare for probably all the 2 days that he's gonna be here." And I was like blown away at being stuck. Like the president coming in, and just Derek and Joe go to Atlanta the same day. You know, we visit together. And I thought back again, this is an experience that I think I would have never had. I just probably would have stayed shut up in my vehicle and never talked to anybody. But embracing communication the way that I have, you know, I've opened myself up to understanding and satisfying these curiosities and closing these ignorance gaps. And while sometimes I still can feel embarrassed or feel like an idiot because I don't know certain things or walk into certain situations with a lack of understanding, I just realized that it's ignorance. There's nothing really wrong with ignorance unless you leave yourself that way intentionally, unless you make the choice not to close the gap. Opportunities have presented themselves, and I asked the questions and got the information, ultimately got out of gridlock and got out of Atlanta and got my Mexican food, my normal Mexican food, back where I'm most comfortable. So that's gonna sum up today. A little bit different video, just talking about kind of my growth, some of my experiences, telling a little story, and just, it's a great day. So remember, you can't lose if you don't quit.